I'm up. Hey everyone, my name is Donna and this is Phoenix Fire. Today's live production is brought to you in part by Prairie Sky Recovery in Leipzig, Saskatchewan. Today's guests, Todd and Lea Hoiland, tragically lost their daughter to a fatal drug poisoning 9 months ago, and today they're here to tell us their story and what they're doing to raise awareness, and we're going to meet them right after this. I spent a year and a half on the streets. Addiction took me there. Pain took me there. My name is Donna, person in recovery, domestic violence survivor, mother of 2. I spent years running from myself, but no more. I've come to find peace, and I am not here to light a candle. I am here to set fire to the darkness and give voice to the voiceless. I hope you'll join me and my guests as we face the stigma around addiction and tear down the walls of oppression. This is not a safe space. This is a brave space. This is Phoenix Fire. Okay, let's bring in Todd and Lea. Hi guys, how are you today?
Good.
How are you?
Good. Nervous, but I'm okay. I'm glad we're here. I just want to say thanks very much for joining us today. This, as I said before, must be incredibly challenging. So we do appreciate your coming here today. Is there anything that you'd like to say before we get started?
No.
Okay, well, we're going to run the story. And here we go. So let's start with what do you guys do for work?
I do anything involved with construction, from brand new builds to remodels.
Okay. And Lea?
So for the last 20 years, I've been in outside sales.
Okay. And can you tell us a little bit about Alyssa?
Alyssa is she was a 20-year-old girl. She had a real good work ethic, very kind, loving girl. She's spent high school years mostly AP classes. Beautiful soul, extremely smart. She was just amazing.
I felt like her intelligence was way beyond her age, even at the age of 2. She was a very challenging young lady. She challenged constantly.
She's independent, and she loved to win and challenge people, and she loved to challenge boys. When she was little, she was very tomboyish,
Competitive.
extremely competitive, and that went on, I think, throughout her life. She loved animals, loved her family. She was very thoughtful when it came to birthdays. She never forgot us. She never forgot anybody, and she always showed up. She's just a sweet, kind person, and headstrong.
Did Alyssa have a lot of friends?
I would have to say no.
Okay.
Along with her intelligence that I mentioned, she had a way of weeding people out early on. She had her small group of people, Cheyenne, for one, Skylar. She kept her circle small, it seemed.
Okay. Okay. And you guys had mentioned that Todd and Alyssa were a bit of adrenaline junkies. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, I was a bit of a daredevil when I was younger, and I guess at 51 I still am. My daughter, her brother Austin is 2 years older than her, so being 2.5 and 4.5, seeing Austin already on a dirt bike, she wanted to do everything he did and do it better. And that's how her adrenaline kind of got started. The dirt bikes, the snowmobiling. We were going to jump out of an airplane.
She could wakeboard, snowboard. There wasn't anything. She tried everything. She liked everything.
Sounds like a really fun girl.
Yeah, she wanted to do everything that at least I had tried.
I wasn't jumping out of a plane.
So
I can't blame you. When I was younger, I had an inclination, and then I grew up and I was like, that's not going to happen in my lifetime. I stroked that off the bucket list.
she had just recently got into rock climbing.
Oh, wow.
Which that's a hard no for me. I'll jump out of an airplane, but I won't go climb anything. I don't know why. I just so.
Well, and in our conversation, you had mentioned that you did some bull riding, but
Yes,
not on a professional level, just right?
Yeah, I rode amateur for over 10 years, and when she was really young, she wanted to go get on one of them.
Oh, wow.
And again, was a hard no. But she was always willing to try something.
Sounds amazing. So kind of going forward a little bit, did you guys ever notice any signs of substance use problems?
We did not. Alyssa was a smart young teenager through high school, and we were all teenagers at one time. And
she went to parties and stuff. She experimented. She told me a lot of things. She was very open with me about everything, and I kind of felt like that's why there wasn't anything that I needed to worry about as far as a problem, because she just told me everything, and nothing was perceived that way. And she worked extremely hard. She had 2 jobs. She was always working, and she started going to college, and as much as she worked, I guess I couldn't have perceived there being a problem. So I just didn't see anything that would, but I know she went out after work and stuff like that. And I'm sure she did experiment, but to what extreme, I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. It's understandable. Sounds like she kept herself extremely busy. I think you guys mentioned that she had worked throughout the pandemic despite closures.
Well, she worked at 2 high-end restaurants, and during the pandemic, they both shut down. Mm-hmm. And instead of getting unemployment right away, she found another job at a grocery store. It wasn't enough to cover everything, but she just wanted to keep working, and she didn't want to be stuck in the house. And I was kind of proud of her for that. Mm-hmm. But like anybody else, it was just, she kept working. She didn't collect the unemployment. She did eventually, but she wanted to keep working the whole time.
And were there any mental health concerns?
I don't think so.
No.
She had a psychologist for a while in high school that, but I kind of chalked it up as girl things, and a way for a girl to talk to somebody other than her parents. Lea and I, when we were young, I can't speak for everybody in the world, but there's a time when your kids hate you, or they at least act like they do. Mm-hmm. We know absolutely nothing, and they know everything. And there was a brief amount of time where there was a disconnect, but as far as mental health issues, I don't feel that way at all.
Okay. Yeah, I think we all go through that stage of parents don't know anything and we know everything, and
we knew she definitely had anxiety. She stressed that she had anxiety there. During the pandemic, there was a lot of just stressing. She had a car payment, she had rent payment, she had insurance, and all the regular bills that everybody has. For 20 years old, she put a lot on her plate.
Yes, you sure did. I'm sorry if I kind of sprung that question on you that wasn't completely discussed, but yeah,
It's okay.
in my notes, in reviewing my notes, I had noticed a comment about anxiety, and so I wasn't sure if that was something that she was frequently dealing with, or if that was specifically pandemic related, which is completely understandable. I mean,
It wasn't something that she dealt with as far as a teenager. I felt like it was something that was developing.
that
I mean,
makes
we
sense.
talked about it.
Okay. And can you tell us a little bit about the day that she passed?
July 8th, we were flying back from Myrtle Beach. We'd been on vacation since the 2nd of July. We had a layover in Dallas, Fort Worth. Lea and I were supposed to stay with Alyssa that night at her new apartment.
I'm sorry, this is hard. Please take your time.
And we couldn't get a hold of her. The last text contact we'd had with her is July 7th around midnight. She had texted her mom. So when we got to our layover in Dallas, Fort Worth, her roommate, Diane, finally answered her phone, and you could tell she was distraught, but we weren't getting any information. About 45 minutes went by in the airport, and finally somebody called me in the Federal Way Police Department and told us that our daughter was gone, and it appeared to be an accidental overdose. So we had about another hour layover, and there was a very kind gentleman in the airport that took my wife under his wing and talked to her while I straightened the airlines out so she wouldn't have to sit by anybody, and made the 4-hour flight back to Seattle. The rest is a blur, to be honest. That night's a blur.
Yeah, understandably so.
We thought that we would be able to land and go to the coroner's office immediately and identify her, but they wouldn't let us. So we had to wait for like a whole week before we could even see her, and then at that, I don't know.
I was told it had something to do with the pandemic, that you couldn't go to the coroner's office or the King County, and she had to be transported to the funeral home before we could see her.
Mm-hmm.
So,
excuse me, sorry. And during our previous conversation, you guys had mentioned like the police, the investigating officer was rather callous about his response and treatment of you guys and Alyssa.
it appeared to be an accidental overdose. There was no foul play at the scene. Everything seemed to be in order. There was no paraphernalia. There was nothing found. Basically
They just chalk it up to she overdosed,
and
bye.
you're going to have to wait 3 to 5, 6 months to get a toxology report to see what was in her system, but there's no foul play, and here's an email if you have any more questions. So
based on that, there was no investigation really done.
Zero.
In terms of
zero investigation.
No.
Investigation. Okay. And were you guys offered any services to cope? Like, was there any help?
No.
We sought out some services in northern Idaho, and it was the best we could find. And I'm not downplaying anybody's services that are offered, but there should be grieving services for families, parents, children, maybe that, I hate to say the word cater, but our situation is becoming more and more common.
Mm-hmm.
There should be groups of parents that sit down together that have all lost children.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And we sat down in a grieving group, but I mean, there was multiple different, they were all there grieving. Not that our grieving situation is any more important than anybody else, but just wasn't a good fit.
It's understandable. And so these services that you did find helpful, are those in your community, or is it is it online, or are you able to
it's
meet?
Community. It's North Idaho Hospice.
Okay.
Grief counseling.
And I would, anybody in Northern Idaho it's in that area, I would recommend them. But it would be nice if they could branch out to different types of grief.
Okay.
Seems horrible to say, but
no, I don't think that's horrible to say. It is a different type of grief and different type of, support that's needed.
I'll give you an example, and this might lighten the mood a little. But we're in the group, and there's a lady in the group that, and again, I'm not discounting anybody's grief, but there was a lady in the group that had lost her cat over a year ago. And I'm sorry, I just immediately, I'm ready to check out. I know your grief is real, but I'm there to talk about my daughter.
Mm-hmm. That makes
a small example.
Well, that did lighten the mood a little bit, I must admit. I'm a cat person, so maybe one day I'll be in one of those groups. But I certainly respect how you don't necessarily identify the same way. I mean, it's completely different. So we had talked a little bit about the lack of information being available to the general public, kids in particular. I think Lea, you'd mentioned the DARE program is no longer in schools.
Yeah, in elementary school, growing up with the DARE program, it was just I think it was, everybody still probably sampled and experimented and things like that, but I think it was an effective program that should still be in schools, be prevalent. Kids got excited to see, I think his name was Officer Collins, show up, and they come out and get stickers, and elementary kids don't forget that kind of stuff. And from what I've been told by other parents, there is no talk in schools, whether it be elementary school, middle school, or high school. And that's something, I'm on websites where I see how many kids are dying every day. Mm-hmm. Kids, from 13 to 40, the age range is huge, but it's really prevalent amongst younger people. And they're not hearing about it. Mm-hmm. They're not hearing about it. I'm hearing about it because it has affected me. Since it's not affecting them or their parents, and it's every single walk of life. It doesn't matter how much your parents make or don't make. It's affecting everybody. They're still doing it. I see thousands of people dying, mm-hmm. but kids still do it. The information's not out there. They're not getting the education it should be in elementary school all the way through college. There should be PSA announcements. It should be on the Surgeon General's website. It should be everywhere. The president should be speaking about it. Mm-hmm. It should be nonstop. It's the amount of people that have died I think it's over 200,000 this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, there was 100 from May of 2020 to April of 2021.
100,000 people.
So I can't imagine what the number is going to be from April of 2021 to this year.
I agree. It's going to be staggering, I think. It's the same up here in Canada. It just gets increasingly worse, and there's less and less that seems to be being done about it, and in particular, pardon me?
It doesn't feel like there's anything that's being done about it. The only thing you see on the news is the police officers that have busted somebody bringing over, they've caught them with 200 pounds. It's enough to kill like every single American. But they don't say what they're doing to prevent it. Are they shutting the border? There's nothing. There's just nothing. Not what it does. It's just,
Yep.
there's not enough information out there.
I agree. And that, I know that you guys funded a billboard in your community.
We donated. We did not fund it.
You donate. Okay, apologies.
I know an extreme amount of people donated to that fund.
Okay.
Friends and family.
Okay.
Some friend of ours, Kathy Heitman and Doug Laska. Doug reached out to me and said this would be a great idea. Mm-hmm. He gave me an example from a billboard in Texas, and we pretty much copied the one in Texas, but our daughter's face is on it, and Kathy and Doug went ahead and found the company and handled the donations through GoFundMe and did everything for us.
Okay. So, in conversation with Dan earlier today, you guys had mentioned discussing specifically this topic about billboards, and the question arose, like, why do we have to pay for the billboards? Why isn't this a public service announcement?
When you've got hundreds of thousands of people dying, why isn't our government funding these billboards? Why is it coming out of the pocket of parents and their friends and their families? And again, back to why aren't there more PSA, announcements running constantly? The only people that are advocating are parents of the lost loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to try and quote Nancy Reagan when she said, the youth are the future. Mm-hmm. And nobody's doing anything to protect our youth. It's period. Parents of children, they all need help. They can't watch their children 24/7. Alyssa wasn't even living with us. She was out on her own.
I don't see how, if Facebook there's the constant blocking or the notices of COVID going up and things like that, and monitoring what people are saying and doing, but Instagrams, you can still find these drugs on social media. How is that possible? Mm-hmm. Why isn't there anything being done about that? But you can't talk about Donald Trump or COVID without being monitored. Or if you say something wrong, you're grounded from Facebook for however long. I've never been grounded from Facebook, so I'm not sure how long, but I know lots of people that are constantly. Mm-hmm. But they can do that, but they can't stop people selling drugs on social media.
That's a very, very excellent point. And, I couldn't agree with you more. So like you guys mentioned earlier, this is the first, I think, show that you've appeared on. Yes. And then of course there's the billboard. Are there any other things that you are doing or are interested in doing in terms of advocating?
We want to get more deeply involved. We're getting ready to take a road trip. I think both of us need it pretty badly. And when we are ready to settle, I want to dive deeper into, more billboards will be going up throughout Washington. People raised enough funds that they're going to go probably several different areas and extend the one that we have up already, which there's a lot of people that are able to view that on a daily basis. It's a high traffic area, and we'll get more of those. But once we're settled, we would like to do more. I'd like to get into schools, anything, marches, things like that, anything we possibly can. Currently, we're constantly on social media saying something.
Okay. Is there anything else that you guys would like to address today?
Well, one thing that people also need to know is that fentanyl is it's not just in Xanax. It's not just in cocaine. It's in it's in every single drug, street drug. We just saw a program lately that they're trying to disguise it as Tylenol. So it's really playing Russian roulette at this point. Even as an adult, if you were to, I'm sorry, my daughter was an adult, but like for me, if my friend gave me something, you can't even do that. You need to be really aware of everything and anything, because it's like playing Russian roulette.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And there's no second chances, even with the Narcan.
Mm-hmm.
By the time, there wouldn't have been a chance for Alyssa. She died too quick.
In my little bit of knowledge, it would be nice if, again, our government, even on a state level, if any form of social media needs to be banned, it should be Snapchat. The messages that are deleted immediately. What I've found is Snapchat app is where these kids are buying. It's front door delivery for drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's no way for the police to track those messages. They're gone. I may be speaking out of not enough knowledge, but that's what I've learned. What little bit I do know is that the police, their hands are tied, and there's not enough of a force to protect our kids.
Mm-hmm. I'm not entirely sure where to go from here other than I'm just going to put up some comments. I'm sorry, I'm in trance with your story. I'm deeply affected by your situation. It's heartbreaking. So we have Tyla. She says, family members taking charge is what creates the change. Stigma is so overwhelmingly strong, but our passion is what makes the difference. Speak to the issue every chance you can and make those opportunities happen. There are millions more that haven't found their strength yet. Speak up. Stay strong.
We're definitely trying.
And Diana says, I commend you for speaking about it. I have not spoke about my 2 kids' previous drug abuse out of a sense of embarrassment.
We love you, Diana. It's hard to talk about. Also, we didn't know anything about fentanyl.
Mm-hmm.
So we couldn't talk about that really with her or anybody else's kids, for that matter. We didn't know. Mm-hmm. Hey, don't go out and experiment when you go to a party tonight because you'll die. Yeah. But everybody needs to speak up. We love you too, Tara.
And I have a comment from Debbie, and she says, so sorry you had to go through this. It breaks my heart, and the fact that much needed services are constantly being cut. It needs to change.
A lot of things need to change.
Thank you, Debbie.
Yeah, definitely.
I think as a parent, it's unfortunate that parents find embarrassment, but I guess in our situation, Alyssa was so private, and being blindsided, I'm just mad. I'm not embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm still mad.
Rightfully so. I'm sorry I missed that comment.
Love you, Kathy. Thank you.
And is there anything that you guys would like to leave us with today?
Talk to your kids.
Talk to everybody.
Protect them. I mean,
I heard an example of one person say that when they did coke or any type of drug, they weren't alone. They need to know that it doesn't matter if you're alone. If there's enough fentanyl in something, which some things, pills or substances have been 100% fentanyl, there is no chance of saving your life, and the Narcan won't even work. If you see that video of the police officer, he didn't even touch it. Just the fumes of it, or whatever, maybe small amount of powder that came out of the trunk when he opened it, he overdosed all the way to the hospital, and he's lucky to be alive. But if somebody actually does it, I mean, there's, in some instances, no chance of survival. There's no safe way of using drugs right now. You know, there isn't. I guess you can't tell, I don't know, you've never been able to tell kids not to do drugs, but I don't know the answer except for you're really doing it at your own risk of your life.
The one thing I would like to say is that I hope at some point they decide to divide the numbers up of the deaths and actually put a real number to the amount of kids that were poisoned and they were not drug addicts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Alyssa,
our daughter was not a drug addict. She was poisoned. Alyssa's
toxicology report reads accidental overdose. In my mind, that's not an accidental overdose. She didn't take what she was given. She was given a Xanax, and it was fentanyl. She was poisoned, and I call it's murder.
And I know we're not the only parents. There's thousands of kids that have been poisoned. Mm-hmm. They were not avid drug users. And that's the biggest thing that needs to change. There needs to be
there's a stigma,
a division.
Absolutely.
Not everybody's an addict.
Great. Okay. Do we have any more comments coming in? No? Okay. Okay, well, thank you very much for your time today, guys.
You're welcome.
As I said before, I really appreciate you being here and sharing your story. And
appreciate you asking us.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. I hope it helps.
There is power in numbers. If you would like to contribute to ending the stigma around emotional pain, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow on Twitch, Facebook, and Instagram. Like and comment your thoughts on our posts. Let us come together with our lived and living experience as a resource that has the power to engage new thought processes, to promote new ideas, to broaden the spectrum of care, and to show the world that we can recover. There is a safer way, and we are here to show you how. Good afternoon.